This is not a Sutter Cane story. This is not reality. Not reality. Not reality. This is reality. Yeah, that's reality. Not reality. Reality.
Hello, and welcome back to more Films Under Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host Maverick, Dren, Zaria. This week, we are finishing off the John Carpenter Apocalypse trilogy with In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, everybody's favorite trilogy comes to an end. It's kind of weird to think of these three movies as a trilogy, but okay, if that's what that's what he considers them. Then, like you'd think if they were a trilogy, they'd have like at least like one connecting character, or
I think it's just supposed to be like an anthology trilogy,
or maybe like a setting. Like maybe there's like a similar setting. But yeah, I guess the anthology. Yeah, so like the Twilight Zone or something.
Yeah.
I would love it if John Carpenter like took on like the Rod Serling role in these movies. That'd be pretty funny. Okay, so In the Mouth of Madness was released December 10th, 1994 in Italy. And February 3rd, 1995. Really? Yep. And
how did it come out in Italy first?
I don't know. But then it was released February 3rd, 1995 in the United States. So yeah, we had to wait 2 more months to get it. It cost $8 million.
Okay, so more than Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious from watching it. And it only made $8.9 million domestically. So yeah, it was.
Oof.
Maybe it'll get better with Escape from LA's box office. and of course, anybody who's listening to that podcast knows it did not. Oh well.
No.
This is an adaptation of a book by best-selling horror author Sutter Cane.
Have you ever read any of Sutter Cane's works before?
I prepared myself by reading some of his books, but I really regret it because now that motherfucker is trying to control my life. So.
See, I tried to get it. They're just too pulpy for me.
They're too pulpy. Yeah, that.
It's kind of weird though. Like the front cover of like the last one he did, it looked like I was on the front cover of that. So I don't know what was going on there.
I thought Horror at Hobbs End was good personally, but you know, that's just me. The movie was directed by John Carpenter. What a shock. And this is his 6th time as a director on this podcast. Yep. Has not beaten Sam Raimi yet. And he was apparently not the original choice for director. Originally, this was going to be directed by Mary Lambert, who did Pet Sematary.
Oh.
The one from the 80s.
Yeah.
And Pet Sematary 2. It was produced by Sandy King, and I looked her up to see if she was related to Stephen King.
Oh, yeah?
She's not. She's married to John Carpenter.
Oh.
She produced 4 of his movies, including this one. Village of the Damned remake. Vampires.
Yeah.
And Ghosts of Mars.
Yeah, all of the hits.
Those are fan favorite John Carpenter movies. You know, maybe we could do like a 2 movies enter of the Village of the Damned movies. I mean, it would probably
could be an interesting.
It'd probably be obvious who would win, but honestly, it would just be an excuse because the Village of the Damned remake has Christopher Reeve and Mark Hamill in it, so it'd be an excuse to get those 2 on the podcast again. This was written by Michael LaDuca, and I actually was not that surprised when I found out some of the other things he wrote, because he wrote episodes of Freddy's Nightmares.
Oh.
Which was like a spin-off, like, anthology show hosted by Freddy Krueger. As well as Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. So that's 2 movies in a row that have had a connection to Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Because Alice Cooper plays Freddy
And I guess
Krueger's
this guy
dad.
just likes, I guess this guy just likes his Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
And you know what? There were parts of this movie that felt like a Nightmare on Elm Street. And this might be part of why that's the case.
How are you leaving out his best movie that he wrote?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Judge Dredd.
Oh, right. Yeah, but that would actually make a good podcast.
Yeah.
That's a pretty bad movie, but it is... It fits more into the fun bad categories. It's got quite a cast, too. Like, the cast of that thing. Like, James Earl Jones narrates it. So, there's that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Max von Sydow is in it, too. Now, we could do, like, 2 movies enter. We could do Judge Dredd and Dredd. That would be too obvious, though, who would win, but whatever. I just want an excuse to cover those 2 movies. Michael LaDuca was also an executive producer on a lot of movies, including The Mask.
Oh.
Loaded Weapon 1. And National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1.
Yeah.
To be more specific. Wag the Dog.
What a weird list.
That's actually... Wag the Dog's like a really good movie.
It's fantastic. I rewatched it a couple months ago.
Yeah. It's so strange seeing that, like, after The Mask and National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. So, like... Dark City. Have you seen Dark City, by the way?
No, I haven't.
Okay. That you should see that one. It came out around the same time as The Matrix, and people were, like, comparing the 2 a lot. So
maybe that's a versus episode.
Maybe. You know what? Yeah, maybe. Long Kiss Goodnight, which that's a movie I enjoy. You know, it's a Rennie Harlan movie. Sam Jackson's in it.
Oh.
And Gina Davis. And Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. The music was done by John Carpenter and Jim Lang.
Ooh, that's a new name.
You know who John Carpenter is, right?
Yeah.
He tends to do music for John Carpenter movies, surprisingly.
Shocking.
Yeah. Jim Lang did the music for the shows Hey Arnold.
Okay.
And Dinosaur Train.
Nice.
I haven't heard that name in a while. As well as Body Bags. Which Body Bags was a horror anthology film that was co-directed by John Carpenter. And he plays like a crypt keeper type character.
That makes sense.
He's like this freaky dude that like works in a morgue and like introduces the segments. So yeah. I don't know how much makeup John Carpenter was wearing for that movie, or if he was even wearing any, honestly. But like he looks like a dude that works at a morgue, if I'm being honest. Speaking of so the cast, and we have a lot of names here.
Yeah, I forgot just how many like big people there were in this movie.
A lot of, yeah. Well, maybe not. Well, okay, a few, but like a lot of these are like character actors, but
yeah,
character actors that we know. So,
yeah.
Of course, the main star of the show, Sam Neill. We know who that is. I mean, you know.
Yeah, Jurassic Park.
He's Dr. Alan Grant from the Jurassic Park movies. He played the grown-up Damien in Omen 3, The Final Conflict.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite Omen movie. He was considered to play James Bond at one point, which he's pretty embarrassed by. Huh. And you can find his screen test on YouTube if you want to see it.
Really?
And this is not his first time being in a John Carpenter movie either, because he is in Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Oh.
Which popped up on Tubi recently. I tried watching it a few days ago. It's not very good. I don't know what the hell that thing was supposed to be, but Sam Neill plays the villain in it. And you wouldn't know it was a John Carpenter movie either, because it just... okay, anyway.
It just doesn't feel like it?
No, I don't know what it feels like, actually. Because it has Chevy Chase in it, but is it trying to be a romantic comedy? Is it trying to be a spy movie? Or a sci-fi? It doesn't work, whatever it is.
Sounds like a mess.
That actually... I would say either that or Ghosts of Mars is probably John Carpenter's worst movie. Charlton Heston is in this.
Yeah.
Moses is in this movie. He's also the narrator from Armageddon, so we've had him on the podcast once before.
Yeah.
I think. Or no, actually we've had him twice, because he's also in True Lies.
Oh.
He's like Mission Control.
He's like the head of the... Yeah.
He's like the M in True Lies. He's got the eye patch. And of course, he's been in a lot of movies. Planet of the Apes, Damn Dirty Ape. Ben-Hur. He warned us about Soylent Green is people. He's a pretty well-known actor, and it's kind of funny seeing him in this, of all things. This is also the film debut of Hayden Christensen.
Yeah. He just kind of shows up in a scene.
And you didn't know this until I told you about it.
Yeah, because I had no idea. And then you told me, and I was like, wait, hang on, where?
He was like 12 at the time. He's the kid on the bike. And Hayden Christensen, we've had him on the podcast a lot. Because he's Anakin in the Star Wars prequels.
And then he's in that Cassini Space Odyssey.
Yeah, he played a lizard space surfer in Quantum Quest. What the hell was that movie? And now he's in this. And I saw an interview with him, actually, where he was talking about being in this movie. He was really excited to be in this movie because he was a huge Jurassic Park fan. And he was so excited to work with Sam Neill. And that also was a John Carpenter movie too, so
yeah.
We got I probably gonna butcher this name. Jürgen Prochnow.
Jürgen Prochnow.
Oh my god. He was in Das Boot. He's the submarine commander in Das Boot.
Yeah. He also played Arnold Schwarzenegger.
In what? Wait.
In a movie called See Arnold Run. It was about his, I guess his run for governor.
Oh, right. I think I've heard of this. I forgot about that. I don't know if I've... Wait. I don't know if I've seen that, but... I might have seen a review of it or something. Or you told me about it. We might have to do this on the podcast at some point. This looks so weird.
He was also in a couple of David Lynch movies. He was in Dune, and then he was in Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. And he also played the main villain in Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Huh.
So he's in quite a lot of stuff, actually. I was surprised. It was kind of weird seeing him in this, too. Oh my god, another actor who's in a lot of stuff. David Warner.
Yeah.
I think this is his first time on the podcast.
I thought I saw something that he was in. Hold on,
He was almost in Quantum Quest, because he was apparently one of the original actors.
Yeah.
That was going to be in Quantum Quest before they all got replaced.
He's in the Wing Commander movie.
Yeah. He's in The Omen. Time Bandits. He's in Tron.
He was in the Twin Peaks TV show back in the second season.
Oh, okay. So that's another Twin Peaks actor then.
Yeah.
He's in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. He's in the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol, which is one of my favorite versions of that. You'd probably know him for playing Ra's al Ghul in the Batman animated series.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he's in a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, which is too bad. He was a really good actor. Rest in peace. Was it?
I forgot that he was in the first Fallout game.
Was that him? That was it. Yeah, Time After Time. It was this time travel movie starring Malcolm McDowell and David Warner, where H.G. Wells uses a time machine to hunt Jack the Ripper, and David Warner plays Jack the Ripper, and Malcolm McDowell plays H.G. Wells. You know, that might make a good podcast, actually.
Yeah, that might, actually. Hearing about it, yeah.
Bernie Casey, which he played Felix Leiter in Never Say Never Again.
Yes.
If we do a bunch of Bond movies, we might cover that one, so...
Just because it's kind of a weird, interesting
New movies
one.
enter. We could do Thunderball versus Never Say Never Again. That would be an interesting one. We got John Glover, who was another actor from the Batman animated series.
Who did he play in that?
The Riddler.
Oh, the Riddler! Huh.
I think both these guys played Batman villains then, in that case.
He was also in the Smallville TV series.
Oh, interesting.
As a Luthor. Not as Lex Luthor, but someone named Lionel Luthor.
Okay, what? Is he like...
He was in 145 episodes. How many episodes of Smallville are there?
It went on quite a while, I think. I've never seen it, so...
217 episodes?
I haven't seen it. I did watch a few episodes of Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Which that one was a bit strange. It felt more like a romantic comedy, and then occasionally Superman shows up. It barely felt like a Superman show.
Oh, you want to know what movie John Glover was in?
He was in Gremlins 2, The New Batch.
He was in The Chocolate War.
I was afraid you were going to mention that. Yeah, the movie adaptation of both. I think both of us have that as like one of our least favorite books. So
Yeah. He was in Batman and Robin.
I will give the movie this though. It does have some Peter Gabriel songs in it, so there's that. Oh, did you say? Oh, right, yeah, we have had him on the podcast before because he's in Batman and Robin. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
He's the guy that accidentally creates poison ivy. I forgot about that. Then again, that's a pretty bad movie, so... Oh, and he's also in a Christmas Carol adaptation, because he's in Scrooged.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the one with Bill Murray. It's like a modern-day version of it. It's a pretty funny movie. We got Wilhelm von Homburg.
Who is that? Was it Ghostbusters 2?
Yes, he played Vigo the Carpathian. And we've had him on the podcast before because he was one of the terrorists in Die Hard.
Oh,
which is not surprising considering. I mean, that name, like,
yeah.
Wilhelm von Homburg. Okay, initial thoughts. I feel like that took a while.
There's quite a few. There were quite a few people to talk about.
Okay, you can start with your initial thoughts.
So, I had the first time I had seen it, I didn't really know what it was about until like 5 minutes before I actually watched the film. So, I had watched it with a group of friends, and one of them introduced it by saying it's kind of like Alan Wake, which I'll probably end up talking about a bit more here. So I did go in like kind of excited for it, just because I liked a lot of the concepts with Alan Wake, specifically with like a horror story coming true.
I think you mentioned that.
This is now
times, but
this is now the third time in about within like a year for sure that I've watched this movie.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I actually really like this one.
Was there anything else you wanted to add, or just?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you had something you were gonna say there.
Because you just said you really liked it, that you didn't say anything. Sorry, you can keep going.
Yeah, sorry. Like I said, I love this concept of this horror story that's slowly coming true, and like people have read the story so they know what's coming and they can't do anything to stop it. I think like Prince of Darkness, The Thing, and most of John Carpenter's movies, it just has this incredible like oppressive atmosphere throughout. Music is once again great. Really bass heavy, which was fun. Playing that on my speaker system up here while watching the movie.
The music sounded like a lot more 90s than than the other two.
I think the writing is pretty solid through it. There was like a couple parts where I wrote down like that some parts of it just felt a little weird, but for the most part, it's pretty solid. The acting is solid. It's overall, I really, really like this movie.
So, I just didn't really hear much about this movie for a while until I saw a review of it on YouTube. And I remember watching the review and being like, this sounds like a really cool premise. Like, why have I never heard of this movie before? Because it's directed by John Carpenter. It stars Sam Neill and Charlton Heston. I mean, just with that pedigree, like, I just found it so strange. I'd never heard of this movie before. Like, I don't know, maybe it just came out at the wrong time or something. Because, like, I look at, like, the other movies John Carpenter was making around the same time. Like, this is sandwiched in between Memoirs of an Invisible Man and Escape from L.A., which are both not very good movies. So
Yeah.
it's kind of sad that this didn't get more attention. Unlike Prince of Darkness, I'm very much able to follow this one. It has a much more straightforward plot. I like that it drew from the works of H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes.
Because I do like a lot of Lovecraft stories. And it's one of the better attempts to adapt his work, even though it's not a direct adaptation. You know?
Yeah.
Although, if you want to see a good movie that was a direct adaptation of Lovecraft, there's this really good movie called Color Out of Space, which stars Nicolas Cage.
Oh, that's a recent one.
Yeah, it came out a few years ago. It's actually pretty good, surprisingly. I think the acting is better than Prince of Darkness in this one, definitely. I mean, the cast is most of the cast is like people that we've heard of. I mean, although I think I preferred the atmosphere in Prince of Darkness, if I'm being honest.
That is a fair point. The atmosphere in Prince of Darkness, it was like sort of just seeping out. This one, it still feels oppressive, but it's just not as like not as heavy of an atmosphere as Prince of Darkness's was.
Mm-hmm. And I'll get into that a little bit more later.
Yeah.
I think it's a decent movie. Rewatching it, I did notice more problems with it. I think it has a very interesting premise that I wish it was explored a little more. I was kind of surprised at how short the movie was. Like, it's only like 90 minutes, and I thought it was a little bit longer than that. And maybe if there was just a little bit more to it, you know. But overall, I enjoyed it. You know, it has the feeling of a pulp horror novel, and even though not all of John Carpenter's fingerprints are on it, this seems like it would have been a fun movie to make, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You get to work with Sam Neill, so on the rewatch, yeah, I did notice more problems, but I think it's a good movie. You know, I think more people should check it out, you know, especially if you're into, like, Lovecraftian stuff. You'd probably like it.
Yeah.
Unless you're Leonard Maltin. Let me look at his review.
Oh boy.
I have it bookmarked.
I'm gonna take a guess.
Okay, what do you think he gave it?
I'm gonna guess he gave it
Let's recap. Let's recap. He gave The Thing 1.5.
Okay.
He gave Prince of Darkness a bomb. What do you think he gave this?
I'm gonna say he liked it as much as he liked The Thing.
Okay. He liked it more, apparently. 2.5.
Oh.
The first 2/3 is among Carpenter's best work as a director. And Sam Neill is outstanding. But the last third becomes pointlessly obscure, and the ending is a pretentious letdown.
Huh.
And remember, he thought Batman Forever was better than this.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, I take it he's not a fan of the works of Sutter Cane, then.
Apparently not.
Speaking of Sutter Cane, the story. So the plot here is that Sam Neill is at an insane asylum, which is a great way to start off a movie, I should point out.
He plays a great crazy person.
and he had been hired to investigate the disappearance of a horror writer named Sutter Cane, whose books are quite literally driving people crazy. Then it turns into Lovecraft, and then it turns meta. And that's the plot. Give or take a few details.
Yeah, that's the basic premise.
So, pros. I remember when the movie started, one thing I thought was funny is that I thought Metallica was playing at the beginning.
So that's interesting, because I've read that John Carpenter wanted to get Enter Sandman to be the theme for the movie.
Yeah.
And, like, it sounds like it, especially the drums sound like the drum line for Enter Sandman.
It does sound like Enter Sandman, but apparently he made his own song instead. With the help of the guitarist from the Kinks, apparently.
Huh.
Which is interesting. I like the, again, just the premise of it I really like, and I like the covers for Sutter Cane's books.
Yes, because they look very much like a kind of pulpy horror novel that you'd find.
They look a lot
But
like... A lot of Stephen King books from that time period had a very similar, like, style of, like, cover.
which was probably intentional.
Yeah, and obviously Sutter Cane is very clearly named after Stephen King. They even mentioned Stephen King in the movie. They say at one point that Sutter Cane sells more copies than Stephen King does, which is pretty funny. And it's just it's an interesting story too, because basically the Sutter Cane went missing. Sam Neill has to find him. These books are causing people to just go just completely nuts. Apparently, it gives you 2 pupils and, like, makes you violent. I guess it was making fun of, like, people who say, like, horror novels
it's almost like
cause violence or something. Like,
I was gonna say maybe more so just the satanic panic in general.
that too.
Just like anything dark is gonna turn people evil, and they're gonna start killing each other with axes.
Yeah, of course. Of course, that's what it is, and not, well, actual problems. But anyway,
Not list any like the thousands upon thousands of actual reasons, and not just some
I don't
guy's
know. I
books.
mean, you look at the history of humanity. Genghis Khan didn't read any horror books before going and killing a bunch of people. So.
Do you think if Genghis Khan had Black Sabbath, would he have been more or less evil?
Well, if you listen to War Pigs, probably less, actually. Because that song's very critical of, like, war. But anyway, that's getting completely off topic. But basically, Sam Neill's got to go find Sutter Cane, and apparently Sutter Cane is this crazy dude who's, like, he's found actual monsters and they're inspiring his books. So,
and then they're turning his books into reality.
That's so strange.
It's such a solid premise, though. Just seeing, like, this fiction affect reality.
Yeah, like, towards the end it does get pretty scary when you realize, oh shit, like, this actually is happening. Like,
yeah.
and the guy played, they really did just cast the perfect dude to play Sutter Cane. Like, he...
Yeah, no, Jurgen Prochnow is, like, just astounding in the role. You can just feel, like, the madness dripping off of him. Like, especially that scene where they're in the confession booth together.
Yeah.
And he's like, more people have read my books than have read the Bible. Like, he feels absolutely insane, and he knows that he has total power over everything.
And I mean, you just look at him, like, he looks exactly like you would expect him to look. So,
yeah.
he kind of looks like David Cronenberg a bit, actually. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
It might have been.
And he's not even in the movie that much, but he's honestly the creepiest part of it, because the dude, he just looks and acts completely insane. Like, and not in, like, an overstated way, either, too. It's just... Well, kind of. Like, his entrance is a bit overstated, because he just shows up with, like, a bunch of Dobermans.
It's really over the top, but I honestly love it, because they're, when he first appears, it's inside this old Byzantine church that was shut down because there was, like, monsters inside, and there's, like, this kid standing in the doorway, the doors keep opening and closing, like, really fast, and then suddenly it opens and he's just there, and there's, like, a choir that sings out when he first shows up.
Yeah, it's just... And also the setting was interesting, too, because it was, like...
Yeah.
Basically, it's just... Like, Sam Neill's gotta go to this, like, weird town.
In New Hampshire.
Was it Hobbs End?
Yeah, Hobbs End.
Yeah. It's just this weird town with a bunch of strange people. Kind of like Twin Peaks, actually. Speaking of Twin Peaks.
Actually, speaking of strange people, real quick, I just want to talk about Wilhelm von Homburg's character.
Oh, right, yeah. He shows up.
He's kind of like this, like, redneck. I don't know why the line sticks with me, but when they're looking for, like, the little kid who's inside the church, he sees him, he's just like, Johnny boy! Johnny! I don't know why his delivery of Johnny Boy just makes me laugh.
He was a strange, character. And there's this, like, one creepy line he says, like, right before shooting himself. I'm trying to remember the line, like...
Because I know he has a line a little bit before that I wrote down. I don't think I wrote down the exact line.
I wish I'd written it down.
Because I know before he says something like, I can't remember who came first, us or the book. Which, that one's a pretty good... Oh, right before he shoots himself, he says, I have to, he wrote me this way.
Right, yeah, that was the line where I realized, like,
yeah,
the stakes of the situation, because I was like, oh my god, they literally do just have no control over their fates. That is terrifying.
And what's interesting is, like, he knows the whole time, because he probably doesn't want to do this, but he knows that it was written down.
He read the book, yeah. Rommel, you magnificent bastard, I read your book. And we should talk about Sam Neill as well. He's the main character. John Trent.
Yes.
And the movie's told in an interesting way, because he starts off... The first part of the movie is him being entered into an insane asylum. He's, like, drawing crosses, like, all over his room and stuff.
Yeah.
It was making me think of, like, Event Horizon, because, you know, that's another movie where Sam Neill just kind of goes insane.
He goes crazy.
You know, I don't know if you've actually seen the movie. You've probably seen clips of it at the very least, but, like...
Yeah.
You know... And speaking of which, I haven't seen this, but apparently somebody made a fan edit of this.
Okay.
Called In the Mouth of Event Horizon. And it takes this movie, In the Mouth of Madness, and combines it with Event Horizon, because, I mean, they both star Sam Neill, so...
Yeah.
I really want to see it, because that sounds hilarious, but yeah. Yeah, so Sam Neill's character, he's interesting because, you know, we flash back and we see, okay, he wasn't always this crazy, like...
Yeah.
Because apparently he's just what is he, like an insurance investigator or something like that?
Yeah, like he investigates financial crimes, and he's pretty good at it from what we see.
I don't remember exactly what Sutter Cane's financial crimes are, but somehow he ends up investigating
I think it was, if I remember correctly, Sutter Cane disputes. The company that publishes his books tried to file some sort of claim, and so the people that they filed the claim with were trying to hire Trent to investigate and see if Cane really disappeared.
Oh, yeah, because I thought maybe he was just...
Like, they were thinking maybe they were just trying to get money from the insurance policy.
Or maybe it was like a gimmick or something. Because there's writers that...
Yeah, because that's what Trent was thinking it was that it was some sort of publicity stunt.
And, like, there's writers that are, like, famous for, like, being recluse. So, like, J.D. Salinger is a notable example. Or, like, Thomas Pynchon. And, like, maybe that's what happened, is he was just trying to be the J.D. Salinger of horror novels or something. I don't know. Catcher in the Rye, the Sutter Cane version. But so Sam Neill's character, it's kind of funny just how he starts off like just not caring about any of this quote unquote horror.
Yeah,
crap.
He's just kind of like snarky towards everyone.
He's really cynical. He like doesn't seem to trust anybody, which I guess if you work as an insurance investigator, maybe that does just make people jaded or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he even has like a line that's kind of like that, where he's like, he basically says anybody's capable of anything. Well, it's just he's seen so many people try and screw each other over that it just doesn't surprise him anymore.
And Sam Neill's performance is pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Sam Neill, so you know, I've never seen him give like a bad performance. And I felt really bad for him towards the end of the movie. I was just thinking, this dude this dude is going through way too much too quickly. Like, you know, it's like, because he finds out his life is a horror novel and he can't do anything about it, basically. Like, that would drive anybody crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is sort of skipping ahead along the story, but I actually really like the ending where he ends up rewatching the whole movie, which was directed by John Carpenter within the movie.
That was something I like went back to like look and see if the poster like
it was, doesn't it list the characters' names instead of
we need to explain something. So the movie it's a movie in a movie, and it's like based on the book.
Yeah, so it's the movie adaptation of the book.
Yeah, of the book that has control over everybody's life, everybody's lives. And Sam Neill like goes to the movie theater, and like the poster of the movie, it says it stars John Trent, you know, Sam Neill's character, and it's directed by John Carpenter. I was hoping it would actually say that, like, you know, that it actually says John Carpenter. So it's like we're watching this movie, so it's like it kind of creates this like meta thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like when they watch Spaceballs the movie inside Spaceballs the movie. So, yeah. And he just sits there watching the movie, and it's like it's exactly what you think it is. And he's just laughing like a lunatic. It kind of reminded me of...
It's especially whenever, like, you see, whenever he was saying, like, this is reality, that's when he starts, like, really laughing the hardest.
It kind of reminds me of, there's this famous scene from, Cape Fear, the Martin Scorsese one, where... Robert De Niro is like sitting in a movie theater, just like cackling loudly while smoking a cigar. It kind of reminded me of that. Obviously, the context is different, but
yeah.
That'd be another
Also,
good one.
he walks
Actually,
in
that'd
the
be another
movie-
good one
Yeah.
for Two Movies Enter.
Yeah.
Cape
I still
Fear.
haven't...
They're because both, and
Oh,
actually that's
yeah.
one case where both movies are really good.
That might be a good one then, actually. So it's not just completely lopsided.
That'd be a little harder to determine, I think. And what's funny actually is both of the movies have Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum in the cast.
Huh.
They're the main stars of the original one, but then the remake, like, they appear in it as, like, different characters, so, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, poor Sam Neill, you just...
Yeah. But I love his snarkiness throughout the movie. He's just really funny at the beginning.
And then
like there's the scene
and then
where he's
his
going...
life just his life just starts to slowly get worse and worse.
Yeah.
Oh man. And the ways that
He's
they
got
do
a lot of good
job...
lines.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I was about to say they did. I really like a lot of his lines. Because there's the one where he's in the bookstore and someone's like, "He sees you. Tell him I said hi." Or when they start playing music in the asylum, he's like, "Oh no, not the Carpenters."
I was gonna mention that. Okay, so I found it kind of funny that the director of this movie is John Carpenter.
Yeah.
And the song playing in that scene is by the Carpenters. And apparently, it seems like John Carpenter doesn't like the Carpenters that much. Or the writer of this movie didn't, you know. But I just found that kind of funny. It was. I think it was We've Only Just Begun that was playing, which... Anyway. Yeah, I would say overall the cast is really good. The acting's really good. Even like people that aren't there for that long, like David Warner's not in the movie that much, but he's pretty good.
No.
You know?
Yeah, he's got like 5 minutes.
Like this is a movie where honestly it has a cast so good you could like switch a few of them around and it would still work.
Oh yeah.
Like I think David Warner would be great in the lead role of this movie.
I think it would be kind of funny to see Sam Neill play Sutter Cane as well.
Yes! Yes! Oh god, that would be amazing, yeah. Then it would just be Event Horizon in that case, if he was playing Sutter Cane.
It really would be.
It would just be like Event Horizon. I kind of want to do Event Horizon now. It's just...
Oh, we might have to.
I really enjoy that movie, actually. And like Charlton Heston's in it again. He's not like one of the main characters, but it's just cool because it's Charlton Heston. You know?
Yeah.
He's playing a book publisher. I guess he's the Perry White of this movie.
Yeah.
Although if this had been made in the 70s, I mean, Charlton Heston would have been the main star for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Like, and then instead of warning people about like Soylent Green or Damn Dirty Apes, he'd basically just be warning them about
Sutter Cane's book.
Sutter Cane is real.
His books are real.
You maniacs. God damn you all to hell.
And even a lot of the minor characters who were only like on screen for
like you mentioned, what was his name? Like, Mr. Homburg.
Yeah. He's really good.
He was a very, very strange character.
The guy that played Sutter Cane's agent that attacks Sam Neill with the axe at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, right, yeah.
That lunatic with the axe, that was Kane's agent? Yeah, well, you'd think a guy that outsells Stephen King could find better representation.
I love how that whole scene happens, because you see him coming out of the bookstore with an axe, and then you just watch him walk up to the window where you're right by, like, you know, Sam Neill in the shot, and then just see him break open the window, jump in, and just, like, yell out,
"Do you read Sutter Cane?"
Yeah, that was an interesting scene there. Or there's that weird old lady at the hotel.
Who has her husband just chained up
She
and
like
then
seems really
chops him up later.
nice. But then like what's her name? Linda. She was sent along with Sam Neill. She's
Yeah.
like read Sutter Cane's books, and she's like talking about how the old lady like killed her husband or something. And
Yeah.
Sam Neill doesn't believe her.
And then he sees it happen later.
Yeah. Like, but because basically, like during most of the beginning of this movie, like Sam Neill just doesn't believe anything that's going on. Like
No.
he's just like he like thinks this is all like a publicity stunt or something. He thinks like all this crazy shit happening in this town was like staged to sell books. And it's not until he actually meets Sutter Cane that he believes what's happening.
Yeah.
Because that's the part where like he basically like rips this hole in reality. I don't know how to explain.
And that's
this
a
exactly.
really cool
and it, like,
scene. So he like grabs his face and he like tears it away almost as if he in the background are paper. And it's like literally tearing a hole through reality. But the edges of the hole have writing on it, so it looks like he's ripping himself out of the story almost.
Yeah, because it looks like pages from a book. Yeah, and that special effect actually, I think, looks pretty cool. Like, especially for that time, it actually
it holds up pretty well.
It didn't look bad, yeah, and also just like you don't see that much in movies like this, so you know, there's that. And there's just a lot of weird stuff that happens, like, in that town. Like, there were these weird children with bloody mouths or something. That was strange.
Yeah.
One thing that I liked was that painting that changes.
Yes, like throughout the movie, you can see it changing slightly throughout. Like, there's one time where it looks like their faces are sort of like mutilated or they're moving farther apart.
Zombies at one point, and then at another point they just look like Cthulhu.
Yeah, it's just like a flesh blob with tentacles.
And speaking of Cthulhu, like the monsters in this, you can definitely tell there was some Lovecraft influence on this.
Oh yeah, the monsters are great, especially that like wall of monsters that shows up that chase Trent down the tunnel. Because there's a lot of them actually.
Some of them kind of looked like Men in Black aliens a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
And the effects were done by ILM actually, so.
Oh, that makes sense.
Best people in the business, and they do look good.
Yeah.
I do think The Thing had better special effects, personally. But then again, I mean...
But this one's pretty impressive monster effects, I feel.
And then, yeah, that's when you learn, oh, apparently Sutter Cane is writing about real monsters, you know? Jesus Christ.
We already mentioned the old woman, but when we see her chopping up her husband, she's also kind of become a monster, and that looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
The monster that's in the greenhouse where it's like the writhing massive tentacles.
You can definitely tell that they had more money with this one than Prince of Darkness did, that's for sure.
And they put it to good use.
And not even just because of this, like, the special effects, but also like the cast. They could afford Charlton Heston, for fuck's sake. So.
Yeah. I don't know whether to put this under pros or cons, but this movie makes me want a cigarette.
Put that under cons. That stuff is not good for you, man. But yeah, basically it felt very like Lovecraftian. I mean, and even the title, it sounds like the title of a Lovecraft story, you know, because there's at the Mountains of Madness.
Yeah, that's the one.
And a lot of H.P. Lovecraft adaptations tend to be terrible, so it's kind of a relief to see one that's well made, you know?
Yeah.
And that doesn't have racism in it, so, you know.
You know it's bad when, like, the people at the time were saying that Lovecraft was too racist for him. Like, that's a bad sign.
Anybody that doesn't know the name of Lovecraft's cat, well, I can't.
It's pretty bad.
I can't say it on the podcast. That's how bad it is. Jesus.
I actually have an H.P. Lovecraft cookbook somewhere.
I have like a collection of his stories upstairs. Actually, it's like I think it's the complete fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. And I also got like Jules Verne and Edgar Allan Poe up there. Oh, here we go.
Oh, okay.
Bought it at Barnes and Noble probably 8 years ago. And yeah, apparently the Sutter Cane's works are popular enough that they sold the film rights. And it ended up being this movie. Funny how that works. And there was like a line that when Sam Neill it's when he's talking to Charlton Heston's character.
I know this book will drive people crazy. Let's hope so. The movie comes out next month.
Jeez, that's such a... Oh my god, that line. And then on top of also just feeling like a Lovecraft story, this felt like a Stephen King movie.
Yeah, you can tell that there was at least a little bit of influence.
And Stephen King, has mentioned that Lovecraft was one of his influences. He actually wrote a short story inspired by Lovecraft. It was called Crouch N. And it was in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which the cover of that book, of that short story collection, looks like one of Sutter Cane's books. I remember that one being pretty good. That was a pretty good short story collection, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I haven't read it in a while, though. It's literally been since high school when a lot of the Stephen King stuff I read in high school, so it's been a while. There were some weird ones. Speaking of cigarettes, there was one story in there where this guy he would smoke cigarettes and he would see these weird creatures. It was kind of like They Live a little bit.
Oh, except just cigarettes instead of sunglasses.
Yeah. So don't smoke cigarettes, man.
How many cigarettes does Sam Neill smoke in this movie, actually? Because I feel like it's just about every scene he has one.
Why would I be counting that? There was a poster for one of Sutter Cane's books, and it said, if this book doesn't scare you, you're already dead. Which is one of the... it's very similar to one of the taglines for the movie Phantasm.
Oh, yeah?
Because I read that quote, I'm like, that sounds familiar, so I was like, I feel like there was a movie that had that tagline, I'm like, oh yeah, Phantasm. It was Phantasm. The movie with that guy with the weird long hair and the,
yeah,
metal ball that stabs people in the eyes.
See, I think I tried to watch it. I got 20 minutes in and for whatever reason stopped watching.
You didn't watch the whole thing?
No.
Because you didn't like it, or just you ran out of time?
I think I had something that I had to go to and I just never picked it back up.
I don't remember much of it, actually. That's the main thing I remember, is that weird metal ball that stabs people, which is a very interesting...
I mean, it's on all of the posters for all of the sequels.
I never watched any of the sequels. That's the thing. I don't think I liked the first one enough to watch the sequels, so there's that. I might have to... Okay, so on Tubi, They have Phantasm, Phantasm 3, Phantasm 4, and Phantasm 5. So they have all of them except...
But not Phantasm 2?
Yeah. Also, some of Sutter Cane's book covers like have Cthulhu on them, which looks
just
like
pretty plainly. Yeah. I also like the poster for In the Mouth of Madness, like the book within the movie. It's just
the poster of the movie or the poster of the book.
The poster of the book that's then used as the movie poster.
Oh, you mean with like Sam Neill
within the movie
on it?
This is getting hard to talk about.
I might have to. Yeah, it's sort of like when we did the Face Off podcast. There's just a lot of strange imagery, and then getting back to the actual movie. We keep going off on tangents.
I really like when Styles does the like exorcist walk out of the car.
Oh, that was so weird. That her like head is like
that was kind of freaky.
Yeah, that did kind of disturb me a bit. And she kind of just disappears after that. It's because she gets apparently.
She gets out. She does that. She's kind of laughing to herself.
I'll talk about this more later, but when we get to cons. But she kind of just vanishes. Sam Neill keeps having these like nightmares and stuff. Like one thing he keeps seeing a policeman hitting a guy in an alley.
Oh yeah,
and it made me think of there's a line from the David Bowie song "Life on Mars" that it made me think of, which was take a look at the lawman. Take a look at the lawman beating up the wrong guy.
Oh yeah,
and it's basically that scene. And like this policeman keeps like turning around, and you see his face. It becomes more and more like disturbing,
like deformed as it goes along.
Yeah, it's.
And then there's graffiti that like every time that it goes back to like that nightmare scene, there's graffiti appears that says "I can see you," which adds to like a layer of the creepiness.
I forgot about that. There's a lot to pay attention to in this one.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I watch it again, I'll probably be noticing a lot of stuff that I didn't beforehand. One detail I thought was really cool. So the way he finds Hobbs' End, I can't believe we haven't mentioned this yet.
Oh, yeah.
He tears apart the covers of Sutter Cane's books, and it, like, makes the pieces of it... They're, like, puzzle pieces, and apparently they make a map of,
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, yeah. I'm not good with geography. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and so he can use that to find this town that didn't exist until Sutter Cane wrote about it.
I don't know how he figured that out, but okay. Because I know there's, like, lines on the
He's
books,
just that
but,
good.
Like, how would you make the connection to, like, tear these book covers up and then, like, make it into... Anyway.
He's just that good of a financial investigator.
I guess, yeah. It's a good thing that the Joker pays his taxes, otherwise he'd probably be after him. Or I guess that'd be the IRS would be the one after. Well, he'd be the one investigating and then telling the IRS about this. There's like a flying car at one point. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I forget. Was that when they were going into Hobbs End or when they were coming out?
I think it was when they were going in.
Okay, because they're going in. They go in this like covered bridge, and then they're just flying in space for a few seconds, and then they get there. I thought that was kind of a cool. It was weird, but I think it was kind of just a cool transition of like you're stepping from reality into fiction with that.
I didn't know what was going on during that part. It was very weird. And there's also
have we not talked about?
Sorry. There was also that weird guy, like, riding his bike on the highway.
Yeah, that gets just progressively older each time they pass him.
Which that was the guy that looked kind of like the tall man from Phantasm.
Yeah.
Was there anything else I need to mention?
How have we not talked about the best performance in this movie?
Are you talking about Hayden?
Of course.
Yeah, because he shows up like in like the last third of the movie.
Yeah.
As a paper boy. And it's funny because I was actually thinking of rewatching Revenge of the Sith recently, and I was like, well, I watched In the Mouth of Madness. I mean, that's close, right? They both have Hayden Christensen.
That basically counts.
Yeah, or I could just rewatch my favorite Hayden Christensen movie. You know, Quantum Quest. Oh boy. That might actually be true now that I think about it. But yeah, it's so weird, like, thinking of it, because he's not in the movie that much. He's just in that one scene.
No.
And he's so young, too. Like, this is like...
Yeah.
Middle school age Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, he would have been like 13 years old, I think.
12 or 13, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, probably 12 when they filmed it, and then 13 by the time it was released.
This thing, Dr. Alan Grant got to talk to the future Darth Vader. In that scene. Is this why Anakin turned to the dark side? Is because he...
Because Sutter Cane wrote it. That's the plot twist we've been waiting for. Sutter Cane wrote Star Wars.
George Lucas just like went up to Sutter Cane's house and said, "Here, I need help with my space movie script." Or maybe George Lucas is Sutter Cane.
Ooh, maybe.
Although speaking of Star Wars, one thing I was thinking about while watching this movie is there was a part of me that wonders what this movie would be like if you switched out Sam Neill with Harrison Ford.
Ooh. I don't know. That'd be weird.
There would be more pointing. I do know that. I think he'd just be a lot like angrier.
Yeah.
And less willing to put up with
drier in the
shit.
beginning and then become progressively angrier and angrier as it went along.
To the point where he turns into the Red Hulk. Because apparently that's a thing now. Is Harrison Ford is the Red Hulk. Oh, Sam Neill watches Robot Monster on TV at one point. Which is a pretty ridiculous movie. Anybody that's watched Mystery Science Theater knows what that movie is. Anybody who doesn't, though, it's this movie where the main bad guy is this alien that came to Earth, and it's just a dude in a gorilla costume wearing a diving helmet. It's the stupidest possible design they could have come up with. Besides maybe the giant claw. Besides maybe the giant claw, because that was also pretty dumb. That'd be it. That's another one we've kind of teased for a while, is the giant claw.
Yeah, doing the giant claw.
I'd be down for it, honestly. We need more movies from before 1977 to throw in there.
Yeah.
Oh, another positive, no dogs die in this one.
Yeah.
That's good.
There are dogs, but they don't die. That's right.
And then dog, of course, is God spelled backwards. So, you know, of course they're the ones that escape alive in this one. There's that weird... I forgot about this. There's that weird part where the bus turns blue, like...
Okay, that part's actually kind of funny. Yeah, the whole screen gets tinted blue, and Trent can see it.
Like, what? I'm trying to remember how... Because I guess... I guess Sutter Cane is just fucking with him or something.
Yeah, because he shows up and he's like, "Did I ever tell you my favorite color is blue?"
Was this before the song Blue Dabba Dee came out?
I think it was.
iPhone 65. That was 1999, okay. Or maybe it was a reference to Sound and Vision, another David Bowie song. Because blue, electric blue, that's the color of my room. Yeah. Charlton Heston doesn't remember Styles because apparently Sutter Cane wrote her out of the book.
Yeah. That was kind of insane.
She just disappears for like no reason before like sometime during like the last third of the movie. That was so weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can start to get into cons. Unless did you have anything?
I think we can move on to cons.
So I felt the style shift was a bit jarring in this one compared to the first two. Because the first two felt much more like John Carpenter movies than this one did.
Yeah. The first two felt really heavy throughout, and this one really just didn't feel quite as oppressive.
His like signature atmosphere was just kind of missing from this one. There were parts where it kind of had it, but like,
yeah,
it wasn't quite the same. And part of it might be because the Dean Cundy did not do the cinematography for this one. He's John Carpenter's usual cinematographer. Like, he did, like, I think he did all the ones, almost all the other ones we did on the podcast, so. And it didn't feel as much like a John Carpenter movie to me. I mean, maybe part of it is because the first two were made in the 80s, and this one was a 90s movie. Yeah. And also, he was like it was kind of a director for hire situation, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, and it really wasn't Carpenter at the helm of like everything. He was just sort of added on.
He didn't write it. He didn't, and he wasn't involved with the writing of it, from what I could tell. It also kind of flowed in a weird way. I don't know how to explain
I can see that, because
the middle section of the movie just felt kind of off to me.
Yeah, because it's slow until you hit like the point where Sutter Cane tears himself out of reality, and then the movie gets really, really fast.
It like really ramps up in like the last like 30 minutes of it. It's like just, and the music, like, it wasn't bad per se, but I didn't find it as memorable as the music from The Thing.
It's not really like the synthy soundtrack that we're used to with John Carpenter. I think, like you mentioned, it's much more of a 90s sounding song.
Yeah, I wish that could also be it. It's kind of just, and again, you know, John Carpenter was not putting out his best work in the 90s. I'll just say that.
And then this is a bit of a nitpick, but the scene where the townspeople all go up to the church to try and rescue the kid, they're firing guns while they're there, and it kind of looks awful when they're doing it. Because like there's no what?
There were kind of some weird shots in this one, I noticed.
Yeah. Because when they were firing, like, there would be like a muzzle flash, but there would be like no recoil with the gun, so it just looked fake.
Oh, well, I didn't notice that in particular, but
there's one part where it's like really bad, and you can kind of see.
I don't know how much John Carpenter knows about guns, but you know, it's a movie, whatever. I also didn't find, most of the movie wasn't scary. It wasn't until like the very, very end that I found it scary, just because of the situation he was in. Because that was when once you finally understand what's happening, that was kind of when it sank in just how fucked he is, you know.
Yeah.
Just how, like, because that's one thing, like, everybody is, like, scared of, is, like, not being in control of their life and their decisions. So, you know, and this is, like, just that on, like, steroids. Because he was, like, apparently just a character in a book. Oh, jeez. I also felt Linda Stiles' character, her acting, I just thought was kind of flat.
Yeah, and she didn't really have a whole lot to do. All she was really there for was to lead Trent to the town, but you kind of get the feeling that he would have found it without her regardless.
Although, to be fair, that might be the point, because Sutter Cane does
That is fair, because she does get written out of the book.
That's why Sutter Cane wrote her out.
Because he's like, oh, we don't need this character.
It's hilarious, actually. But still, I didn't think she was that. Like, she was like the one cast member in this that I didn't think worked in it, and I didn't really recognize her from anything either. So yeah, there were parts of this that were kind of silly too. Like
yeah. So like the part that stands out to me is when Trent and Stiles are driving, she's like asleep in the passenger seat and he just pulls out a horn and wakes her up for no reason.
I don't remember that, actually. But like, just some of the stuff,
it just felt like
some of the stuff with the townspeople and stuff, it just was like, I don't know, parts of it kind of bordered on being a little too over the top, so, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, and even like, and when the monsters like showed up, I don't know, I didn't really find the monsters as scary as they could have been, you know. But
yeah, they weren't very scary. I still think they looked impressive, though.
Maybe I'm just too desensitized to this stuff. I don't know. That could be it. And I kind of just wish that they'd explored this premise a little more. You don't really get to see the more interesting stuff about it until like the ending. Basically, once he meets Sutter Cane, that's when, you know, because it's kind of a slow burn until, like, I guess they're waiting until they reveal like what's going on, but you know.
So
again, there's like so many things.
Interesting.
That's the problem when you have like a premise where you can kind of just do whatever the fuck with it.
Yeah.
The expectations maybe get set a little bit too high when you do that. So, because it's a very,
I feel like they could have done a couple.
Very, no pun intended, novel premise. You know.
Yeah. I feel like there's a couple things they could have done with the premise that would have like hinted more at what's going on earlier on. Like maybe put Trent in the middle of the middle of a conversation that gets rewritten as he's having it. Might have been an interesting thing to see. I don't know exactly how they'd pull that off, but that could be kind of interesting.
One thing I just thought
or
of,
if they like.
That would be pretty funny, is if like Sam Neill tried writing a different ending to the book. So we get like Sam Neill trying to, like, maybe he's using like Sutter Cane's typewriter. He's just trying to add stuff to it to, like, you know, mitigate the effects. You know, that would be interesting to see.
And I was kind of thinking about this. You could do a sequel that's about the movie adaptation. And it could be almost like, obviously be like a commentary on like adapting a novel to the screen, but it could be like John Carpenter is making the movie and he's made changes that are like fighting with the original source material.
You know what that would be? That would basically just be New Nightmare then. It would be Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I don't know how much you know about that movie.
I know the basic plot to that one.
Yeah, where basically it's like they're making a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but then it starts becoming real, you know?
Yeah.
That would basically be what that would be like, and that came out the same year as In the Mouth of Madness,
Huh.
1994. So yeah, it'd be that, except it's John Carpenter and like Sam Neill. Sam Neill playing himself and John Trent. Oh my god, that would be my god, that'd be so funny.
I also wish
Or,
they would have
it'd be
explored
funny.
the previous books a
You
bit
know what
more.
I would like to see
What?
is like a movie about like the video game adaptation of In the Mouth of Madness.
Okay, I'm actually gonna get into this a little bit because I know I'll wait until we're done with the cons to talk about this, but
I'm kind of done with my
I need-
cons personally. I don't know.
Okay,
if you have...
there was one other thing that I wanted to add.
Okay,
to
then
the
we can
cons
talk.
real
Then we
quick.
could talk about
Yeah.
Alan and his sleeping problems or whatever the fuck it was.
Yes. So I do wish that we would have gotten a little bit more just about what the first 6 books were about, to see if it's like an anthology, if it's a continuous series, because jumping in on like the 7th book in the series, it feels like we might be missing out on something.
Okay, so we know that there's a book called Horror at Hobbs End.
Yes.
And In the Mouth of Madness takes place in Hobbs End. So at the very least, maybe it's like Stephen King, where it's all set
Kind of
in
like
like
Castle
Rock. And the
Yeah.
books aren't necessarily like sequels, but like events and characters from different books like get mentioned. So it's like this like universe or something. So maybe it's kind of like that.
Yeah, I could see that being the case.
But they don't really go into that in this movie, so that would be interesting, actually. Because apparently Shawshank
All right,
Redemption
so-
takes place in the same universe as Cujo.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right, so I mentioned earlier a video game series called Alan Wake.
I know you've mentioned it before, but I don't remember much about it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So the basic premise is that there's this author named Alan Wake. He normally writes these pulpy crime novels, but he wants to write a horror story. So he and his wife go to, I think, Washington.
It's kind of the opposite of,
on a
I just
vacation.
realized Stephen King started off writing horror novels, but then like later in his career, he's just like, oh, fuck it. I'll just write a few like pulp crime novels now. So, anyway, sorry, keep going.
He and his wife end up going to the Northwest just on vacation, and suddenly he wakes up from a car crash. His wife is gone, and he's finding pages to a horror story that he doesn't remember writing, and they're all coming true.
Oh boy.
So that same basic premise of an author writes a horror story that's coming true is there. It tackles it a bit differently, and especially the second game, it's pretty unique with how it's all shown. I think if you do want to see this idea explored more, I think you'd actually really enjoy seeing Alan Wake 1 and 2. And even like the weird spin-off.
You could send me like a playthrough of it, maybe, or like, maybe somebody did like a review of it, or I don't know.
Yeah, I could look around and send something, but
did Markiplier do a series about it?
I don't think he did, actually.
Oh damn it! I like Markiplier.
And so there's just a couple points that are like similar, but they're sort of explored differently, which I really like. So I think one of the big things actually is the second one does feature, I guess, a wider range of art forms in it, including a film adaptation of a horror story that competes with the horror story, which is pretty interesting to see.
What like?
But overall,
what style of like horror is it?
So the first game, it's kind of like I don't really know the best way to describe it. sort of like more monster horror, the first game, but the second one is much more of like a psychological horror.
Okay. Huh. Yeah, I'll have to look up more about it.
Yeah, I can send you some stuff. The first game I think has a great story. It's a bit boring to play. The second game though is like just fantastic through and through. It's like
Is that what games are
absolutely love the
like now?
story.
Is just they're boring to play, but they have stories now. Like,
Well, I think the second one actually has really fun gameplay. It's the first one that just kind of sucks to play.
okay.
But yeah, that's my just quick endorsement for Alan Wake. If you like In the Mouth of Madness, you'll probably like Alan Wake.
Okay. I don't play that many video games, but I mean, at the very least, I'll.
But yeah, I can
look
send
up
you like some
stuff about it.
playthroughs.
Yeah. And I mean, the video games I was playing, they were more like like Mario games or like Donkey Kong. You know, I used to really like Donkey Kong Country, for example. Or like arcade games like Galaga or like Pac-Man, but anyway. Like, my taste of video games probably makes me sound like an old man or something. No, anyway. So, I'm not up with what the kids these days are playing.
I used to be hip, but then they changed what hip was.
Mm-hmm. So, was there anything else you want to add, or should we get
I think that's it.
overall thoughts? Yeah. I think, unless I guess I'll start. It's the only good '90s movie that John Carpenter made. So
Hey, it's got that going for it.
I think it's also the last good movie in general that he made, because the stuff after this kind of sucked, so. I was kind of undecided on if I liked this one more than Prince of Darkness. Because here's my dilemma. So, I think the best way I can put it is, I think In the Mouth of Madness is a better movie, but Prince of Darkness is a better John Carpenter movie.
I can see that.
If that makes sense, because I think this one has better acting, and the plot makes a bit more sense. I mean, and it has a way better ending, for one. Because Prince of Darkness kind of fizzles out at the end a bit. But Prince of Darkness also has more of like John Carpenter's trademarks, which is the weird atmosphere, the synthy score, the novel, like just batshit weird premise. I guess this one also kind of does, but this one kind of, the premise didn't originate from John Carpenter, so it doesn't have quite that effect. After thinking about it, I do think I like In the Mouth of Madness a little bit more, but I'd say they're pretty close in quality for me. I think In the Mouth of Madness just has better characters, and you care a little bit more about what's going on, but and then maybe part of it also. It's a little hard to compare too, because Prince of Darkness didn't have as much money.
Yeah.
Budget, whereas
plus they're just very different movies. It's kind of hard to compare them.
Which is weird that we should talk about that a bit. How it connects to the other two as part of the trilogy. I should have mentioned that earlier, but just wrapping
again,
up.
I kind of said it. Yeah.
Wrapping up my overall thoughts, I think In the Mouth of Madness is a good movie. Between this, Omen 3, Event Horizon, and Daybreakers, I want to see Sam Neill in more horror movies. I mean, he fits pretty well
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
in that environment. So
Let's just get him in the next Alien movie. Why not?
oh jeez, isn't that coming out like next month or something?
It's either in August or October. I don't remember which
I
one.
keep getting trailers for it on like YouTube videos, but I always skip over it because I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I think for me, I would definitely put this over Prince of Darkness.
Okay.
But
why?
below The Thing. I think The Thing just does a much better job.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I was gonna say The Thing is like far and away the best of these three movies.
Yeah.
Like it's not even close.
Because the thing is just about perfect. It's got this fantastic atmosphere, fantastic writing, all that. We did a whole episode on why The Thing is so
and
great.
also The Thing is maybe the scariest movie I've ever seen. One of them, definitely one of them. I remember at least if we're talking about like the first time I saw it, like the reaction I had, it definitely scared me the most out of like any of the movies, any of the horror movies that I've seen. But
yeah. But I think I do place it over Prince of Darkness because I mentioned that one of my biggest problems with that movie was that there was a lot of buildup, but not a whole lot of payoff. Whereas this one, it feels like there is a good amount of buildup, and then there is a lot of payoff at the end.
I do, yeah, that was
which definitely helps it.
I did say that earlier that I think this one has by far the better ending of those two movies.
Yeah, and it's a pretty memorable movie. I really like the ending. Like that's part of the reason why I've rewatched it, as many times as I have.
It kind of just goes off the rails in like the last 20 minutes. So,
and then like we said, the cast is just solid in The Mouth of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Prince of Darkness, it was just too big, and really only Donald Pleasance and Victor Wong stood out.
Although part of that might be because this one has better known names in it.
Yeah.
Because with Prince of Darkness, the biggest name you had was Donald Pleasance. And then everybody else, it was just like, oh yeah, they were in Big Trouble in Little China, or oh, there's Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really recognize as many names in that one. Whereas this one, you not only have Sam Neill, you have Charlton Heston, David Warner, John Glover. We didn't really talk about his performance that much, but he was kind of fun as the guy that runs the asylum,
Yeah.
Which no wonder Sam Neill, turns out so messed up. His therapist is David Warner. And the guy running the asylum is John Glover. I mean, the Riddler and Ra's al Ghul are running this asylum, apparently. Jesus. Sorry, was there anything else you want to add? Or
I think that was bad.
My point basically was, even though maybe the characters in this one weren't the most memorable, the fact they were played by these
memorable actors
made it stick out a little bit more than the cast of the Prince of Darkness. Yeah, sorry, you can keep going.
Yeah, and so I think that's really that was really my thoughts, just comparing the movies, just in general for In the Mouth of Madness. Really, I don't really know what else there is much to add. It's I just love the concept behind it. I think it's executed pretty well, even if they could have done a little bit more with it, like we had mentioned. But it's just well written. It's well acted. I enjoyed the music for it because it sounds like Metallica.
Enter Sandman.
It's just a solid movie. I know last time we mentioned that Prince of Darkness we could really only recommend to John Carpenter fans.
Yeah, this one I feel would be more. You could recommend this to just anybody that's into horror movies. I think. Yeah. Whereas, yeah, Prince of Darkness really does appeal more to, like, John Carpenter aficionados, you know, like, people like us,
Yeah.
basically, you know, who really like his style and a lot of his movies, so... Which is why, maybe, you know... Because Prince of Darkness, you know, for all its faults, it is a very uniquely John Carpenter. Like, I don't think anybody else could have really made it work. Whereas with this one, I think the reason why I do subtract some points from this, I feel like there's just a lot of directors could have made this work, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't really feel as, like, special, you know? But it's a well-made movie, so...
That is fair. Yeah.
I'm not going to complain too much, because it is a good movie, so, you know... I mean, it has Sam Neill and Hayden Christensen in it, you know?
Yeah, it's all you need.
Dr. Grant shares a scene with Anakin Skywalker. So I was, okay, but I was gonna ask, so, because we talked about this in the Prince of Darkness podcast, how these form a trilogy.
And so I think it's a much more, yeah. And I mentioned this in our last episode. I think it's much more, it's a very loose anthology, where I think it's more so just connected by the fact that these are all stories that are, you know, generally about the end of the world, but they focus on, like, a specific character and how they're experiencing it. So the thing is much more about...
I think this connects more to... I think plot-wise, it connects a little more to The Thing than it does Prince of Darkness. Because with The Thing, it's like a creature that's, you know, shape-shifting, killing a bunch of people, and here it's like these creatures, they're like, or maybe not, I don't know. I don't know, because I'm thinking about it, I'm noticing some parallels to Prince of Darkness as well.
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to be a loose one, because I think
I could see the creatures in this being in The Thing as well, so...
And it's definitely one of those things where it kind of got named.
And also
after
the ending, sorry, that was another thing.
Already been named.
I'm sorry, I forgot. This is another thing I was going to say. The ending feels much more like The Thing than Prince of Darkness, because it's a much more, like, downer of an ending.
Yeah. And it's a very resolute ending, whereas, like, Prince of Darkness was pretty open, because they showed that she was going to come back as Satan, but they didn't really go into what that would mean.
Well, The Thing was also kind of open-ended, too, because they don't...
Yeah, I guess it does let you wonder who...
You don't necessarily know if one of these two is The Thing. For all you know, they could have... Kurt Russell destroyed it, finally, but... Anyway... Which is why that movie... Part of why that movie is, like, really scary, is because you're, like... You're still not sure if they, you know, made it or not. You're still not sure, like, if they destroyed the thing or not. Whereas with, like, In the Mouth of Madness, basically everybody's fucked.
It's pretty clear the world ends.
Yeah, it's like... Well, I don't know if it's necessarily the world ends, but more just the world is now in Sutter Cane's hands. Like...
Yeah.
Like, he can just do whatever he wants, apparently. Like, the world is taken over by... Like, I guess the writer literally is God here.
Yeah.
In this case. Jesus Christ. Oh. Basically, moral of the story, don't read Sutter Cane. Just... There's plenty of other authors.
Play it safe. Just don't read at all.
Yeah, there's plenty of
just in case any one of them get control of the universe.
Jeez, there's plenty of other writers you could read. You know, you could read Stephen King. H.P. Lovecraft is the obvious one. There, you could read Edgar Allan Poe.
Ooh, You can read whoever wrote The King in Yellow.
The what?
Is it The King in Yellow or The Yellow King? It's The King in Yellow. That's what it is.
I don't know if I know that one, actually.
So it's kind of... It's Lovecraftian, but it was before Lovecraft.
Oh.
It came out in like 1895.
Came out after Edgar Allan Poe died. Because it says on the Wikipedia page, the single greatest book of weird fantasy written in this country between the death of Poe and the rise of Lovecraft. And it was an influence on Lovecraft. Okay. Might have to look into this, actually. That looks interesting.
I've heard good things about it.
The cover looks cool. Anyway, yeah, you could read that. You don't have to, but I mean, the Chocolate War exists.
Oh no, please don't read that one.
Yeah, don't read it. I know you're a huge fan of Cormac McCarthy, which anybody who listens to the deleted stuff from these will hear a lot of ranting about that.
There's gonna be a lot of deleted stuff from this episode, I feel.
Yeah. But just to clarify, you are a fan of Cormac McCarthy, right?
He's written a good book that I've read.
A good book, yeah. That is not called The Road.
Alright, well.
It's not called The Road, basically.
No.
Okay.
Next time,
you could read, what else could they read? Like, let's just, Jules Verne. Go read some Jules Verne.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. My favorite book is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Make of that what you will.
And next time, we'll be revisiting one of our most favorite prolific directors of all time. Rui Constantino's Sith Wars, Episode 1.
Oh, this is going to be really interesting, because I've been reading a lot of Star Wars books recently.
Oh yeah, you're getting yourself in the mood?
I'm not up on, like, the Old Republic era, though. I don't know much about it, but anyway. And it looks like this movie's gonna have quite a bit to do with that. Oh my god, this one. So it's called Sith Wars Episode 1, The Return of the Sith. Oh my god. That poster,
it's the highest quality, I can guarantee it.
I am intrigued. Okay. Jesus.
Until then, roll the Andy Griffith.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.